Smackdown, should it go to 3 hours? I'm going to give my thoughts on the discourse that's been happening on Twitter with some people wanting it to go to 3 hours for reasons honestly they can only explain. Um, and we're gonna talk about what happened on SmackDown, obviously with the return of Roman Reigns to SmackDown after I believe 4 months away. We're gonna talk about that. We might talk about some other things that I liked about the show on Friday. We're gonna get into all that, but mainly we're gonna talk on should SmackDown go to 3 hours. Before we do, obviously, I'm going to ask you to please like the video, subscribe, click notification bell so you're notified when I upload another video. Let's get right into it. I'm gonna wait to talk about SmackDown go to 3 hours on the possibility of that or whether it should happen or not until after I talk about the return of Roman Reigns, who absolutely came out and just threw hands. He didn't say a word on SmackDown. He came out there, was after the Bloodline, was after Solo, and was after that stupid necklace of theirs. Um, the tribal. I forgot what they call it. I think it's the Ulufala. I hope I didn't butcher that. I might have honestly, but yeah, he went after the Bloodline and Solo, and he didn't say anything. And the segment was great. Um, Roman looked like a badass, just stood there in front of the pyro. Everything looked great. I had no complaints with it. I was hoping to hear him cut a promo, um, you know, kind of talk about obviously why he's back. He's obviously back for Solo, but also, you know, the title, etc. Just I just wanted him to cut a promo. He obviously didn't do that, which is why for next week on SmackDown, I need to hear that promo. You know what I mean? He's put hands on the bloodline. We've gotten that. We get it. Now I need a Roman Reigns promo next week on SmackDown. Really love to hear, obviously, everything surrounding the bloodline and a promo from Roman Reigns next week on SmackDown. Andrade continues to be a bright spot on SmackDown with his in-ring work and getting himself over with the crowd. Him and Carmelo Hayes are still going to continue their feud. Santos, number one contender for the United States title. Loved all of that. With that being said, now we need to get into the question: should SmackDown be a 3 hour show? Hell no. No. Why? Who? Why are there some people on Twitter X, whatever you want to call it, that think this is a good idea? This is a horrible idea. Who wants this? Why do you want it? The roster isn't even set up for SmackDown to be a 3 hour show. There's just I just made a video, my last video. Leave down the description on what was next for Cody Rhodes, because you needed to find an opponent for Cody Rhodes. And like I said in the video, I thought Kevin Owens was going to turn heel and then face Cody. He didn't turn heel, but he is still Cody's next opponent at Bash in Berlin. How would you want them to transition this into a 3 hour program when the roster isn't as good as the one on Raw? It's not as stacked as the one on Raw in terms of the mid card, in terms of the main event scene. How on earth would SmackDown being a 3 hour show make it any better? It makes no sense to me. They aren't enough. That mid card is just not as good as the one on Raw. Besides Carmelo Hayes and Andrade and what they're doing, their feud, the matches they've had, and I've enjoyed it, and I hope they continue to build on it. Besides that, you got Santos going after LA Knight for the United States title, so we got that. After that, what other stories, what other people do you want to see on television in a feud in the mid card without a title on the line? Sort of like a Wyatt Six, Chad Gable feud. There's nothing on the line. It's a great feud, a great story being told on Raw. There's no title on the line. That's because there's so many people, the roster's so stacked that it can handle that, and it's something good to fill that 3 hour program with. What on SmackDown is gonna be another story, sort of like the Wyatt Six and Chad Gable on Raw, not for a title. That's gonna fill time on TV for that extra hour. Who are you crying out for? in that extra hour that you want to see on television in a feud? That's another question I have, because I can't think of anybody, and maybe that's a me thing, but I can't think of anybody else on SmackDown, on the SmackDown roster, that isn't on television that I want to see in a feud that isn't already on TV. So what that extra hour? What are you gonna fill it with? You're gonna make matches longer, sure, but you can only do so much of that without having maybe another two feuds for that extra hour. So I'm really really confused as to why people want an extra hour of fucking SmackDown. The literally the last couple of weeks, bar this SmackDown and the one before SummerSlam, which I thought were decent, were solid shows. The last couple of weeks before that were hella boring. So why on earth would you want an extra hour there? It doesn't make sense to me. The main event scene needs help. It's not as stacked as one Raw, and so is the mid card. So why? What are we crying out for an extra hour SmackDown? It makes no sense. It's just gonna make the show even worse. It's gonna make it even harder to digest when I sit there 3 hours watch SmackDown. And what are we gonna put in that extra hour that's gonna be interesting that people want to see? Who are we gonna put there? I don't get it. And I'm even intrigued how they tell the story of Cody and Kevin Owens with two baby faces. Um, I think it's like 2 weeks left before Bash of Berlin anyway. But like, what's the story gonna be leading up to that? So it's just a lot of stuff with with SmackDown being an extra hour that just I do not understand why you'd want to see that. And even with Raw, and I really enjoy Raw, and it being like 3 hours, you could say that's too much, because they is still, and there are other stories being told, but not all of them are good. Like, anybody give a damn about the Final Testament versus the New Day? Um, well, shout out Odyssey Jones, who fucking who fucking finally made his Raw debut after over 400 days since he got drafted. Shout out to him. He looked great. I actually enjoyed seeing him and what he did. But the feud before that, I didn't really care about. The Sonya Deville's group, and I think they have a feud with Damage Control and all that. I don't really care about that. Does anybody really care? But throughout the show, there's a lot of stories being told. Um, Almost everything is a story, and most of them are good. On SmackDown, you just don't have enough interesting people in that mid card, that main event scene, for there to be an extra hour. For me personally, I do not know why you would want an extra hour SmackDown. It just make the show infinitely worse, in my opinion. But you guys, let me know down in the comments below if you would want to see an extra hour SmackDown. If you think it should go to 3 hours, let me know down in the comments down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.